Estamos viendo Jimmy Wells, fundador de Wikipedia, a solas con Charlie Rose en Management TV.
Jimmy Wells is back at our table. He is, as you know, the founder of Wikipedia, the web-based encyclopedia. He has a new enterprise now, Wikia Incorporated. He is developing a for-profit search engine that he says will one day rival Google's. He has other web projects in the works. As he says, release early, release often. I am pleased to have him back. Welcome.
Thank you.
So let's just talk about this and we'll get to Wikia. This is Fast Company magazine, Google's worst nightmare. Wikipedia, Jimmy Wells has his sights set on the search business. Should you be seen by Google as their worst nightmare?
I don't think so. I don't think so. It's kind of a funny thing. Magazine cover. My mom really liked it, of course, but no, I kind of think they're not too worried about me. You know, we'll see what we can do there.
What is it you believe you can do?
Well, what we really want to do is make the search engine a transparent, democratic, participatory part of the internet. So open source software, publish all the algorithms, make it really open, and that's something that we haven't really seen in the search industry so far.
It's doable when? Soon?
It should take a while, but
a while means 2 years, 3 years?
Yeah, well, we're planning to launch, you know, by the end of the year, the first front-end project for the public to come in and get involved, participating in it. But it'll be 2 or 3 years before we really have something good, I think.
So if I would search, let's take a word. Let's suppose I would search Jimmy Wells. Mm-hmm. What would my results be different from if I searched Google?
Well, I think that the quality of search overall has gotten to be pretty decent. But what we're seeing is that Google, Yahoo, Ask, they all have very, very similar search results, but they're all done in a proprietary, closed way. What I'm really hoping for is to match and then hopefully eventually exceed that. But the real key to what I'm doing is doing everything with open source software so that we can really you know, break up this idea that a handful of companies should be controlling all this search traffic. If we can do it open source way, lots of organizations can take our software, reuse it to build their own search engines. So
they're making all their money from advertising revenue.
That's right, yeah. So in a certain sense, I don't think they're too worried about me, because if we're able to do something that makes search ubiquitous all over the web, and they're the leaders in matching search terms with advertising, well, that's where their money's going to come from, not from the front end of the search site.
And where will your money come from?
Advertising, ad revenue. So it's a workable business model. I mean, it's really interesting. The you know, in the early days of the internet, people were very skeptical and wondered if internet advertising would work, but it just keeps growing year after year. So it seems viable as a way to support things.
It seems to be the viable way to support things, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. You know, there are a few sites. Wall Street Journal still charges for content.
I want to talk about that for a moment, because the Wall Street Journal now, I mean, the idea is that the Wall Street Journal did the right thing. Therefore, they've made money, while other newspapers have not necessarily been as successful. You buy that?
To some extent. I mean, the Wall Street Journal is in a very unique market position. The information that they have is fairly unique. It's really hard, I think, for an organization like the New York Times. Nobody really wants to pay for their news, per se, because it's general interest news.
Or political opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Political opinion especially is something that, you know, it doesn't require a huge infrastructure to do it, and so really, a really smart person and a great writer can be a blogger. There's a lot of competition in that field. Right. Wall Street Journal kind of has a niche that works for them. Online.
Bloomberg would seem to have more, or others, but Bloomberg specifically, because, you know, and we do this program at Bloomberg, but they also have a huge financial source of financial information.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So
which they don't offer free. They offer to people who buy their machines.
Exactly, exactly.
Terminals.
And that seems to be, you know, working. And I don't see.
Yes, I think so.
It seems to be. It's a nice building here. I have to say. So
it may be working more than the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, that could very well be.
Do you think Facebook made the right decision in terms of not making a decision to be acquired by someone else?
Yeah, I think that's probably the right decision for them right now. I know Mark, and he's a
I do too,
really
yeah.
sharp kid, and he, you know, he's really focused on product and really focused on the core mission of the company. And I think they're just fantastic in what they're doing. So for now, I mean, it takes a lot of guts. I mean, he's like 23 or something.
Something like
He's
that,
turning
yeah.
down, a lot of money.
Lots of millions.
Lots of, yeah,
If
maybe
not,
a billion.
if not, maybe even a billion.
Yeah, and
You'd give him $1 billion for that today, wouldn't you?
if I had $1 billion.
Yeah, of course, that's what I mean. Yeah.
So I think it's a really interesting gamble that he's taking as a young guy, because we've been through, having lived through a dot-com boom and bust.
Right.
A lot of us who had invested money at that time, you kind of say, well, if you're offered that much money, you have to really seriously consider it. But I think that he's a pretty sharp guy.
So he may be doing what's right for him.
That's right.
Certainly.
That's right. He's certainly doing what's right for the product and for the customers, which is something that I haven't seen out of MySpace, who would be in some ways his competitor. So I think
But they're not doing what's right for the customer.
For the customer, yeah.
What is it they're doing that's not right for the customer?
Oh, it has to do with the details, how the site's designed, the level and intensity of the advertising they're shoving down people's throats there, and the spam is getting out of control on MySpace. I don't see good things coming down the pipe there.
Can they contain it, control it?
I don't know.
That's the question?
It's a tough question, right? Whereas Facebook has been very, very tightly controlled in terms of the product, and they're just doing I think they're just doing a bang-up job.
So tell me what Wikia is.
So at Wikia, we've got a couple of major initiatives. The search engine we talked about briefly, right. But we're also building what we're characterizing as the rest of the library. So at Wikipedia, which is owned by the Wikimedia Foundation that I founded, we're building the encyclopedia and some other reference works. At Wikia, people are doing everything else. So everything from humor, opinion, sports, all kinds of different sites. We've got 2,500 of them growing in parallel. 66 languages. We would say 67, but we don't count Klingon as a real language, but we do have a Klingon project.
Yes.
So it's there's Encyclopedia, which is a parody of Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
It's just basically taking what I've seen to be successful in terms of communities coming together, using free licenses to provide the right social context for people to work together productively, and saying, it doesn't have to just be the encyclopedia. We can really roll this revolution into many, many other areas. So we're doing really well, growing faster today than Wikipedia did at a similar stage. So so far so good.
So you want to create search engines, you want to do these other things in pursuit of what ultimate goal?
Well, for me, a big part of this is about what makes the internet important. What makes the internet great is that it is this global platform for people to share knowledge. And to make that happen, one of the things that's been really important in the development of the internet is that it has been a neutral platform. Most of the software that runs the internet is open source software. The protocols are all open, published. And now we're starting to see things like at Wikipedia where the actual production of knowledge is done in a very open, transparent way. For all of its flaws, for all of its, the controversies that come up, it's overall really fantastic, and it's really a public project. And I think we should preserve that. That's what's really important and really good about the internet.
Has the idea of open source prevailed, or is it in the process of prevailing as far as you see it?
So I think it's in the process of prevailing. Certainly, when you look at the web serving market, by far the dominant platform is GNU Linux, Apache, PHP, Perl, all open source software, and that's really been a huge thing. We're starting to see now consumer software that's open source. So a lot of people are using the Firefox web browser, open source, and it's just wiping up. The market share is just soaring. It's really fantastic. There's OpenOffice, which is a clone.
Firefox is the best web browser?
Oh yeah, without a question. I
mean, why is that true? Just tell me why that's true. I know you're not here to promote any product.
No.
Why is it true?
Yeah, well, it's.
I don't disagree, but.
Right. So as an end user, the great thing about it is it just works. It just works. It's very clean, very simple. It doesn't blow up. It's compliant with standards. This is always a good thing about open source software. It tends to be very strongly compliant with standards. It's freely available. So All of those things have, and the reason why it's good is that there is this development model. Open source development has proven to be very effective at being very dynamic and nimble. Changes get incorporated very quickly. Anybody who has a problem with it, any programmer especially, can contribute to it. They have this open API, so people are able to create plugins and little toolbars and things like this for it very easily. And publish that stuff, and it's sort of a whole community environment around building this great piece of software, which you don't get when you've got a controlled platform. You've got, you know, the software's kept secret. So it's really interesting, and one of the problems that people have always said, they said, well, open source software is great for doing server stuff, but they can't do anything consumer friendly because it's written by geeks and they don't care. Well, Firefox is a real strong counterexample to that. They say, well, you know, this is not a web browser that you would be, you know, afraid to install on your mom's computer. You know, it's going to work for it.
How would, suppose in the beginning open source had prevailed, how would the world be different today?
Oh, that'd be really interesting. I think we would see a lot more innovation around the edges. I think we've been, to some extent, really slowed down in a lot of innovations because of the monopoly situation. You know, a lot of the efforts to control the operating system in a way that's advantageous to other Microsoft products has been detrimental. So when we see something like Lotus 123 eventually become victim to the lack of openness of the system, that's not a good thing. So I think that we would just see, you know, a diversity of software that we haven't had for a long time.
You think Google is a friend of open source?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they do a lot of their projects. They do release as open source software. Obviously, some of their core business they don't, but in general they have been. And I think they're in a similar position to a company like IBM in the sense that open source can benefit them, particularly to whatever extent it loosens Microsoft's stranglehold on the entire platform. It's not healthy for Google if Microsoft pushes everybody to MSN search in the new version of the operating system. That's something that can't make them very happy.
Is that going to happen, though?
Well, already in Vista, I think it's the default search engine. But
no, I know that, but although they say you can get others, too.
You can get others, too, and I think it's because the MSN search is so bad that you know, people switch to Google as quick as they can. Yeah, I said that to Bill Gates about MSN search. And
when did you say that?
Just a couple months ago, and I saw you there in Davos.
Oh, and, right, yes. And what did he say?
At a bar. Nothing, not a word. He just turned around and walked away, and I thought, oh my God, is he mad at me, or is he just going to work on it? I wasn't sure which it was, right? So, yeah.
I'm sure it had an impact, though. I'm sure it resonated with him. I'm sure he thought about whatever you said.
Yeah, I felt sorry for whoever he went to talk to after that.
Because he's still going to be thinking about Jimmy Wales. Yes.
Yeah, so that was funny.
So here you are, and Wikipedia has been such a great success, and now you're doing Wikia and search engines, you know. But in 5 years, if I come back to you, you're going to be doing. I mean, you don't even know because the world have changed so much by then.
Yeah, the only thing I can say about what I might be doing 5 years from now is the general principle of I'll be doing whatever looks like the most fun thing to do. So for me, when people say, well, why are you taking on search and this and that, I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if I could gather together the open source community and let's go out and build a search engine that's better than Google? Just like that. Wouldn't that be just the coolest thing?
And is that possible?
I don't know. I'm going to try. I'm going to have a hell of a time trying. It's going to be great. So.
That's true. Thank you for coming here. You're welcome anytime.
Thanks for having me. Anytime.
Jimmy Wales, Wikipedia, Wikia is his new thing.